So, this talk is about public libraries. Perhaps some of you still remember, perhaps some of you even have been in one once. They are sources of free knowledge, something which the internet is also, for us especially. The internet brought a lot of new possibilities to get informed. Everybody can access it. Libraries once were exactly these, the way to get informed. But with the possibilities of the internet and e-books and everything showing up, libraries get lost on the way. Marcel Mars will talk about this. And I really ask you to welcome him with a heartwarming applause.
Okay, good. So, hey. I'll start a little bit from behind, from the history. So, 15 years ago, after the dot-com crash, we thought that the year of the Linux desktop is just about the corner. It will just happen anytime. And then we also thought that the venture capital learned the lesson of blowing up the bubble out of any proportion. A few years later, I think, if I remember correctly, that was actually the keynote in Berlin at the CCC. Eben Moglen gave a lecture which I still remember as one of the best lectures ever. And he proclaimed that we won and liberated the world of software. That was 2004, I think. The world of software, the world of hardware, and that the next world we should win is the world of a radio spectrum. And a radio spectrum is important because that's the very medium where the tragedy of commons is not really is not present as we know it in the world of land. That's why we thought that the next one is the radio frequency spectrum. And then it took a few years, and Google brought Gmail, then YouTube appeared, and then Delicious, if anyone remembers that. It brought us Folksonomy, then Twitter was just about to get its full momentum. The same happened for Facebook, and that was the peak of that. So this was the year 2006, and that was the peak of what Silicon Valley celebrated and preached for so long. So venture capital would invest into free software startups. And then if this startup would become successful, then they will be bought by large corporations which had great kindergartens and coffee machines and also do not evil. The age of attention economy provides user services for free and technical infrastructure, sustainable finance support from the advertisers. It took few more years before the open internet, as we knew it, became the graveyard of abundant open protocols. And as my friend Damian said in a tweet, a very good one, so, where Microsoft never succeeded, a million startups did, replacing open internet protocols with proprietary. So we lost around 2009, if anyone remembers the Google Waves, and that was probably the last kind of utopian or whatever enthusiastic open protocol kind of project. Then we lost XMPP, we lost RSS, we lost voice over IP, we lost federation, we lost distribution, we lost the autonomy. When I say lost, again, it's complicated, as you know. And I must admit, in 2006, I was fascinated with that landscape. At least because of my skeptical social environment, I wanted to research that phenomena more. And then I applied for Jan van Eyck Academy with research called Ruling Class Studies. and I got a research position. And then I started to work on methodology or how to understand and analyze these tech giants. The new class, which literally writes the rules how to run stuff. So I started to profile Google and Amazon, and here is just one of the examples from 2000. From 2011, so it was at the Media Lab Prado, so I used someone else's JavaScript. Don't be impressed with my JavaScript kung fu. What I did here, what I tried to do is kind of explain what's the scope, what's the scale of Google, and then I was trying to see, okay, what's the relation to free software, how much of that software stack is actually written as a free software, how much of that is written by Google, and then try to come up with some kind of approximation of how much time, how many developers, and how much money you would need in 2011 if you wanted to write the software stack of Google. And you can see some of the numbers from that time. But at the end, it was just like I kind of rounded it, and it was more like 12 years of development, $1 billion just for software stack, and 1,000 developers, also kind of like organizing it so that they can do some things in parallel. Anyway, that was what I was doing in 2011. And also did some stuff about Amazon and whatnot. But in order to write text, and that's what they expected me to do, and not just Python scripts and JavaScript, I had to read more. In order to write more, I need to read more. So not anymore just technical specification, but also like the books, the theory books. And Jan van Eyck was one of the best places in the world for that. The best bunch of Marxists, Lacanians, Althusserians, Žižekians, whatnot. And so I had like a very good environment there. And they read the books a lot. And also, they just like everyone, especially at that time, they were downloading books from Gigapedia, my fellow researchers in 2011, and that was from Gigapedia and library.nu. But when I would ask them, what do they have on their hard disks? What are the books they have? They wouldn't really know, and then they would just admit that that when they need a book, they probably have it on their hard disk in a very messy directory, but they would just go to Gigapedia, to library.nu and download it again. And I mean, few people here can understand that I was not really kind of happy that that's how things should be done. And then oh no, worst. There is a lecture books. Sorry, I didn't. I'm sorry. I just downloaded the wrong URL, but it will be back in a second. Just a second. Blog. Oh, I have it here. Keyboard Communist. Oh, yeah, it's here. Never mind. One of my friends, he always asks me why I don't do the what's the name? The Microsoft PowerPoint. And I'm sorry, I really couldn't remember. It was not like, and yeah, that's what I do. So, and he says like, how can you be confident that much? But I'm not. I'm scared, as you know. It's kind of, it doesn't work. But anyway, that was just like after less than a month at Jan van Eyck, I wrote a blog post, lecture books, and then I tried also to explain a few things. So it was not just the how-to, but it was also kind of the a little bit performative in kind of making a media theory kind of lecture, what can be done. And then it's good if you do like if you're very kind of meticulous, and then if you do like the proper kind of manual, the title of the book, and then the author, things like that. And then you can do this in your terminal, and then you can send me this text file, and then I will know what are the books you have. Of course, that no one would ever do that, but I just try to explain how that can be done, and then also introduced what are the resources where you can actually find the good metadata for the books. And also I found out a great software which is called Calibre, and realized that in Calibre you can really just with one click you can bring all of the metadata from internet. So you have a book, you download it from library.new, it's still 2011, and then you download that, and then you get it there. And that's used to be quite a hard job if you were not on digital networks and having a software, if you were like a pool librarian from before. But what was even better was that that you could also run a web server from that Calibre. So what I was doing is that, there is one small thing before. In 2012, in the beginning, library.nu, Gigapedia, was shut down by the court case. And everybody panicked. All of my friends, they didn't know how to handle their messy directories, and everybody around. Facebook was like already kind of quite popular, and you could see that people were freaking out because Gigapedia is not anymore there. And I had few things in place at that time, and I started to share my Calibre library. So what I was doing is that I would run this web server in Calibre, and just a second. From Emacs, it's kind of hard to copy text still. Let's try to do that here. It's good that it works. So what I was doing is that I just like use this little line in my terminal, and what it will allow me is that I would just say, okay, when I'm running that web server from my Calibre, then I will just like tunnel it or just like send it to my server, and I had access to a few servers, and then people would be able to get my library just putting something like this. In the browsers. And what they would do, they would just access my Calibre library from my laptop, and they would get the books. And they were impressed, for sure. And I liked it. And I also realized that I just became, I became kind of an amateur librarian, where people, because they didn't know about you don't need to like copy this line. I'll show you like now it's kind of much better. It's much easier to do that. So I became an amateur librarian. I liked it. My friends liked it. And I realized that that something else could be done. I could imagine that what's happening to the library world is what was already happening to other worlds when there is when the software just like enters the field. So in that sense, that's what already happened in design after Photoshop. It happened to journalism after WordPress. It happened to advertisement after AdWords. It happened to photography after Instagram. So in a way, you can imagine that the Calibre, being a very simple tool and very easy to use, is the way how you can just like do the libraries today. And then if you share it, and if many people are doing that, then you would just end up with the public library, as we know, for like more than 150 years, or at least like 100 and few decades. So that's what we could what we could do. So I'll just show you a little video here, and that's what I imagined for the libraries. So this is SETI at home, and that was at one moment the biggest distributed computer in the world, and that was where people would just run the screensavers in order to help the science and like crunch some numbers. And a lot of people were quite enthusiastic about that. And this is how amateurs and scientists, amateurs and professionals could work happily and for the benefit of the society. So this is what I was thinking about. Okay. But then
Library Genesis और SciHub से
sorry.
संधि भाव में
As I told you, it never works, but
exupate
it's now shut down. Okay, so let's see. Okay, 15 minutes, that's fine. So then it didn't really work. So my blog post, as you saw it didn't really work for my friends. No one was really doing that. Also, no one had access to servers, and they were always very scared from the terminal. So they like to type text into Google search bar, but they don't like to type text into the terminal. It's not a big difference, but emotionally, I think that it's huge. So I'll just show you. I'll just show you what I did at that time. So this was the first version of what I did at that time. So you would have a command line, and then it was, because I didn't know better at that time, you would also need like a Jabber account, and then you would kind of like any Jabber account, but then I didn't know how to handle it. It was not super secure because I could get whatever password. So it was not really secure at the time. But what it worked is that if you would run this in your terminal, your library will just get online and people could use it. And then few people actually started to use it. And my friend Anthony Als, he got like super enthusiastic about it, and he was using that. Okay, and I was happy. So that provided me some time and motivation to yeah. There are quite few shortcuts for full screen. They're all different. And then Damian showed me something. You remember the guy from the tweet? He showed me something. I'll just use it here again. In English, people. So he showed me this, and what he said is that, sorry, it needs 0 here. So what he told me is that you can actually send the 0 to the server, and then server will give you the whatever the port for your tunnel, and then if you do a little bit of the magic of the SED, like here, then you can just like make another command line interface, which will be just kind of simpler. You would also need to do something like this, like a couple of lines in your Nginx, which will just like whenever you go into www and the number of a port, if there is a tunnel there, it will get there. If there is no, then it will just tell you bad gateway or whatever, or you can just like make a custom HTML for that. So it was kind of moving. And I'll show you another thing which was already better. It got on GitHub, and yeah, and then it's a video because I'm just a little bit more scared after a lot of. So you start the content server in Calibre, and then you go back, so it's like already happening, and then you go back, and then you do the let's share books. in your terminal, and then in that terminal, it will just like make that tunnel, and it's still command line. But for myself, it was just like, you can see that it's easier. So there is no Jabber account. So it's kind of getting further in order to please people who want to do SETI at home, but they don't want to do like user logging and things like that. So this is just like, much easier because there is no login, but you still need to type something into a terminal. And then you can also see here that chat is working, and also you don't need to, you don't need to log in. So in a way, it's getting there, and you can be even some kind of pseudo identity there. You can develop your persona, and then you can like chat with people. You can send your URL. So it's getting there. It's kind of getting in the direction of a SETI at home. As I showed you, and about that time, I got an invitation to curate the New Media Festival Hype in Ljubljana. And usually, when you're a curator, you make some fancy concept, you make an open call, and then you just like send a lot of spam messages to all of your artist friends so that they have to do that, so that you actually end up with a good exhibition, and that the works are really not bad. But the bad thing was that I really didn't know what's going on in the new media art or whatever, and I was completely obsessed with the public library. I'm not really a good programmer, so these kind of things are taking quite some time for me. It's kind of like months thinking about that. So what I proposed is that, okay, let's set up a public library. So the public library is, as we know, is the place where we go and get the knowledge. And then it's based on the idea of, I'll just show you that this was basically the proposal. The public library is free access to books for every member of society. It changed a little bit later, so now we use more free access to knowledge for every member of society. It's a library catalog. It's a librarian. With books ready to be shared, meticulously cataloged, everyone is a librarian. When everyone is a librarian, library is everywhere. And that was kind of, that resonated. These people are arty, they're like into leftist kind of things, and then we started doing that. And then what we did is we also showed, so in order to make an ambient for that library, is that we wanted to show that it's already happening. So it's not just that we are doing that, but it's already happening. Some of that is ARG. Yeah, this is ARG. Around like 50,000 books, let's say, around more than 100,000 users. It's kind of forum-based. Users are uploading everyday books. You can see this. And then these books get its whatever place there. You can do the research. You can collect it into the, let's do the collections. You can see what kind of collections, how much of the books you can see. It's also not like a great librarians, because you see that it started with like a different whatever. Then there is a Monoscope, which is also a great thing, and much more people heard about Ubu, Ubu Web, but Monoscope is kind of better. And Kenneth Goldsmith would say the same. So Monoscope is Wiki for collaborative studies of the arts, media, and humanities. Mostly, or at least at the beginning, it was focused on Eastern Europe and Central Europe avant-garde, new avant-garde, and things like that. And it does like amazing kind of things. So I'll just show you one page here. It's like avant-garde and modernist magazines, and then there is, of course, there's some text, but then you can see all of these covers. And the great thing is that you can also download all of them. So this is how we imagine how we imagine the public library. Remember the universal access to books, or universal access to Then Ubu, it's probably like much more well known. Kenneth Goldsmith, it started in 1996. Next year, there will be like 20 years of this project. And it's the best and probably the most kind of well-known archive of the avant-garde art on internet. So what was happening there is that we brought and made this kind of setup. We kind of tried to show show people what the public library could be, and this is just Brian did it. Sits here. He did how ARG and Library Genesis are different, and I'll just show you something. So these are our heroes. I'm pretty sure that you know about them. A Library Genesis, and at that time it was around like a million of the books. We had around like 11 terabytes to download, and it took quite a couple of weeks in order to get it. So what we had there is that we had an ambient saying like, we have 1 million of books in this space. And people would be like, yeah, this is great. So even we have it on internet, just having like a mirror nearby, and we also had like a posters with the QR code, so you could go with your mobile phone and download it. It was like super quick because it was, of course, like a local mirror, and people started to do things like this. This was just a joke. It was mainly, the joke was like how much time one would need to make something like this. So this is just like an overlap in between Library Genesis and ARG, and then if you click on that, the links, yes, of course, it doesn't work anymore because libgen.org got shut down, but we will get back to that later. So these are the things which are happening. And then, for example, Robert Oxcorn did few things. He's amazing. And then, for example, Monoscope did this. So it's from the discourse networks of Kittler, and then it just like made manually the index of all of the people, and then when you click on this, then you go into the experimental view. Oh no, I think that I'll bring Chrome now. Fuck it. Yeah. So you can see, so it brings you to the very kind of reference in the book, and it's done for one book, for Discourse Networks of Kittler, and this interface is, yeah, you can see, it's kind of nice. It's kind of like it provokes you to think, it provokes you to experiment, it provokes you to play, but this can only happen if we have that local mirror, because none of the hackers really want to wait for all of the metadata and things like that. So these are just like few things which happened in Ljubljana. Okay, I'm still good. And then it kind of made me do more. I also kind of, okay, I have to do more. These guys are so great. So this is the aggregation website. It's called Library Memory of the World. I was doing that last night. All of this flickering is because I don't know how to encode things. So I don't know which is worst, if I do that live or if I just do the videos. But so there are no animations really here. When you see them, it's not happening. So so this is what I did. So from the before, you remember the command line, it's one line, I could do that, no one else, so like few people can do that, and I made it into the command line, but you need to log in, and then I changed that so you don't have to log in, and then finally after Novi Sad and Kenneth Goldsmith was like complaining and saying like, but we are civilians, we don't go to terminal. And I'm like, okay, whatever, it took me like a couple of months in order to bring the plugin into Calibra. And what plugin does is that when you click on start sharing, it starts sharing. It does exactly the same thing. It's just that it's GUI, and then it also gets you into the chat, and then you can see that your books are here. You can see that now it's not 11 librarians, but it's like 12 librarians, and one of these is Kenneth Book Warrior. Book Warrior is a guy from Library Genesis. All of the names are shuffled from the big list of the great librarians. And you can see now I go like back and forth. You can see this is the same. So if you go and download it from internet, what will actually happen is that it will download from the very laptop which started that. So the metadata gets into the MongoDB, whoever likes that kind of vocabulary, and then it's kind of faster, but the download actually happens from the, let's say, like a peer-to-peer. This is another librarian, it's Kenneth Jungius, and it's KOK. It's a digitized library in Mama, Zagreb. This is where I'm coming from. Then this is this is biopolitics, which I made for my friend who made a great curriculum, and then she can use it for her students. But what I also added, and this is called lodestone, alchemists used to use it for it's the word for the magnet, so it's kind of like a book magnet. It looks like sharing and all of that. So it's, when you're on the web page, it says import book directly to Calibre. So that means that when you're on the website, on the website, and you have the plugin in Calibre, it will recognize what's in the back, and then you can see that it just got with all of the metadata. So in a way, it's kind of a peer-to-peer, but it's not the gated community. It's also very exposed to the world. So at the moment, when you are doing this, it's kind of a peer-to-peer with the access from the public. And that's why it's public library, why it's not like a peer-to-peer, whatever. What I was like showing here, let me see. A few more of these. Oh, never mind. Then I'll show you like, okay, so how to get further. So this is the idea. So I set up a server, but today you can also, and this is still in the phase of the 2011, couple of command line lines. So what we have here is that we have everything what you need to run a memory of the world is kind of packed up into something which is fancy these days. It's called containers and dockers. And then if you use this, then you can see there is Mongo, there is WebApp, there is a chat, that's the chat server presently, there is Nginx. And these are the composed for, and this is one of the providers. This is called DigitalOcean. So DigitalOceans don't tell you because they know that you are scared from the terminal, so they don't call it a virtual machine or virtual server. They call it Droplet. So I don't have a Droplet here, but I will make it. So what I do here, this is one line, command line. I make Docker machine create on DigitalOcean. You can't see the token even if you're like recording this, but yeah, whatever. And then it's making that. So it's making a DigitalOcean Droplet. So it's making a virtual server on their infrastructure. You will see it just in a second. It's here, it's called LSB, Let's Share Books Ocean, LSB Ocean. And what I'm actually making here is that everything what I can do locally, everything what I do for my server, now I'm saying, okay, now from now on, whatever you do in this terminal, just do on the DigitalOcean. That's what I'm making here. This is another command line. So this is like a second one, which we did here. And then, okay, this is kind of slow. Yeah, now I'm making another Docker, which is just like the one, which is a Linux image, which will be shared with all of the other images later on. It's kind of a composition of a couple of different services. And this is where we are getting. It shows that, yeah, it happened. And then I say, build, more building, whatever. Then I'm just like starting it up. And you have to see the scrolling text. This is very exciting. Once I was crying when I saw at CCC when they did the first SMS gateway, if you remember, like almost 10 years ago. It was just like the end of the lecture, and the only thing which we could see is the scrolling text. We were SMSing on a free software, whatever, base. And yeah, so this is exciting. So what I did when you are running that, it's with a completely different domain. Then if you go to cert.io, that new domain, in this case, Javna Knjižnica. Then you get javnaknjižnica.org. You can see it's self-signed, whatever, if you like. So this is if you want to make completely your own memory of the world. So this is how easy is this. So couple of terminal command lines, and then you have everything set up. So it takes not more than 15 minutes. And you can see that now it just like works everything what worked on the memory of the world. So why I'm showing you this? Because this is the vision. This is what we can do. This is how fast or how far we can go. And I'm sure that Jan Gerber, who is doing another great software, it's called Open Media Library, check it out. It's a peer-to-peer for sharing books. I'm really excited about when it will come out. So he can do at least 10 times faster what I do. So in a way, this is easy. It took me a few years, and I was not only doing that. I most of the time I do nothing. But this is what I'm trying to show you here, and it seems that the world is not really ready for these visions. So what we were really kind of experiencing is that there is certain kind of schizophrenia. So I mean, new media remediate old media. Media pay homage to their media predecessors, which themselves pay homage to their own media predecessors. Computer graphics remediates film, which remediates photography, which remediates painting. Attempts to understand new media technologies always thoughtfully settle on a set of metaphors of the old and familiar, to approximate what is similar and yet rest upon the liminal edge of these metaphors to play with these insights into the new. Every chosen metaphor has its semiotic distance decay or inverse square law, which shows how far it can carry understanding and insights into the given phenomena. The intellectual work in the age of mechanical reproduction got its unfortunate metaphor, intellectual property. And as the age of mechanical reproduction was becoming more and more the age of discrete and digital reproduction, another metaphor was emerging, a metaphor which reveals the quandary left after the decades of decay of intellectual property, exponentially distancing itself from the intellectual work proper. And that metaphor is schizophrenia. So yeah, I'll just like skip a couple of these, and I'll show you few. I'll tell you about few examples of capitalism and schizophrenia. So Sony Music, Sony is a great example. So Sony started. I'll also skip this. I'll just explain you in few words. It usually is longer than reading, but anyway. So Sony had that famous court case in 1984. It's called Betamax case. That means that they just made like a video recorder. And then Jack Valenti, who was the head of the Motion Picture Association of America, he was saying, oh, video recorder is like a Jack the Ripper for the women, and things like that. So it was like, they were freaking out. But Sony won, in a sense, and they kind of settled the ground for the technology not to be that easily shut down. And, you know, the Walkman and CD, DVD, and all kind of hardware which Sony made, which allowed us to copy and share. But then only 5 years later, in 1989, Sony bought its first major Hollywood studio, Columbia Pictures. And then years later, they also bought like Sony BMG. And then they were suing Joel Tannenbaum for downloading and then sharing 31 songs in 2009. And the jury awarded $675,000 to the music companies, and that was like a $22,000 per song. And it's known as the second file sharing case. The first file sharing case was about only 24 songs, and in second trial, jury awarded music companies 2 million basically. It's too long to read it. It's 80,000 per song. And Jamie Thomas was a Native American mother of 4 from Brainerd, Minnesota, and worked at the time as a natural resource coordinator for the Mille Lacs Band of Indians. And then Sony has like quite few conflicts under its own umbrella, and that's what we know as capitalism and schizophrenia, of course. But we don't care. That's Sony's problem, however they deal with their conflicts. But then there is another one, which when it happens, it's kind of disturb us. And that's the one with MIT. So MIT, you all know, I'm sure, Hall of Hacks, the founding fathers of hacking, fire truck on top of whatever, replica of campus police car on the roof of the Great Dome. They were having quite few. There are like books on that. They started OpenCourseware in 2002 to publish all of course materials online and make them widely available to everyone. Then they did World Wide Web Consortium in 1993, 1 laptop per child in 2005. So, and they were also very well known that their Open Campus Wireless Network was always open to the paywall journals like Elsevier, Wiley Blackwell, Springer, Taylor and Francis Sage, and the others. And we know how they generated the very, very big tragedy at one moment. But also at the same time, in their corner, MIT Press published numerous books which we love and which were very constituting for us in public library. One of them is Paper Machines About Cards and Catalogs. So the idea, the development of the catalog is very important, and it goes pretty pretty close to the computer, and that's why the librarianship as a resource is super important. That's what we learned from MIT Press book by Markus Krajewski. Then Eric von Hippel's Democratizing Innovation, then Sven Spiker's The Big Archive, Art from Bureaucracy, then the semiotext. Yeah, it's kind of facing any shizo would be quite hard without the semiotext. Then Cybernetic Revolutionaries, Imagine No Possession, or Boris Groys's Art Power. And the way how we are articulating that, it's not only me here, it was kind of like a convincing and part of these softwares which I was writing. So all together is like convincing quite few people. So we got exhibited at Reina Sofia Museum, which is a very fancy one, Transmediale, Kunstverein Stuttgart, Calvert 22 in London, 98 weeks. I had an opening keynote at the Terms of Media at the Brown University. So in a way, it was quite successful project. So also it was a big honor, but not that big of a surprise that we got an invitation to write for Tactical Media Anthology, and that's supposed to be published by MIT Press. So I'll just show you. I'll show you that contract. So this is how it looks like, and you can see you will not receive any fee or royalty for the contribution, of course. The labor is not recognized, and then you have not many rights. So in a way, that's how the scientific publishing work today, and that's what we got. But we were like, oh yeah, fine, great, yeah, MIT Press, Tactical Media, that's what we love. We'll write something about a public library. And we had idea to write about schizophrenia. And what I was reading just minutes before, that was from the text, which is supposed to be published in this Tactical Media Anthology. But 3 weeks later, we also got this. And for the Art Power by Boris Groys, which I just mentioned before. So it's copyright infringement. This is not from MIT Press. This is just like an icon I have in my email. So what happened is that very schizophrenic situation happened in the very situation with the MIT, and it's not a surprise. So what I'm trying to say here is not that MIT here is in particular evil. It's just that when you have completely non-appropriate metaphor embedded into the legal regulation, you will necessarily end up with a schizophrenic subject. When it happens to Sony, we don't care. But when it happens to MIT, we care. And the consequences of people who are living, who are working, who are inspired, who are part of that orbits around the MIT, that's very dangerous. Boris Groys is also well known to be a guy who called Jesus Christ the first ready-made art. And when he talks about the new, I'm sorry, because when he appeared, supposedly, when he appeared onto the earth, he was like a human. And then it's great that this is like, is this? No, it's not Christmas today, right? Yeah. So, he appeared as a human, and then later on, he kind of appeared as a god. So completely different. So this is what is new. You never know when you see it. It's not that you didn't see something up from before, but only in retroactive you can see that something was new. So in that sense, he's a very good writer on avant-garde art, especially on Russian avant-garde. Also, I recommend from this book, I recommend article essay on privatization, especially because privatization, he proves there, is just like as artificial as nationalization. When communists got there and had a quite good argument why we should also care about people being equal through the economic redistribution, not only through the access to knowledge, which liberals, as we can see, are also like completely like fucking this up. So in that sense, when that happened, people would say it was artificial, and nationalization was artificial. But privatization was just as artificial as nationalization. And when we come to the digital networks, then it's even more obvious. So I can tell you just a few things about the public libraries, why it's important to support it. Public libraries are disappearing completely. Public libraries are not able to buy digital books from the publishers when they have money, because publishers don't let them buy them. When they can buy them, then there is a very nasty technology called DRM, which will count how many times you borrowed the book, and then after 26 times, you have to buy it again. So as we go further, we can see that public libraries are just completely shut down in working on I don't know what's going on.
I moved out to Langley recently.
Okay, yeah, whatever. I have no idea what's going on. Okay, but then this is what also happened. So Library Genesis, which got after the Gigapedia and Library.nu, together with BookFi and Science Hub, where Science Hub is much more important, they all got shut down by Elsevier. And Elsevier is well known to be a very bad guy, which makes huge profits on mostly publicly funded researchers and selling us a couple of times something which was already our. And what was happening here is, yeah, I'm sure that you all hear about that, and I'll just like show you, or maybe I can tell you then. So Elsevier was like running a court case in New York and getting an injunction which will let them shut down the websites, even not reaching them, because these websites are in Russia, so it's kind of hard to get there. So what they do is that they make their IP addresses of their servers into the blacklists, or they are just like taking off their domains. This is the way how they shut down most of the websites these days, and they are fighting for that. This is what Elsevier is doing, and I will just finish with this. Can you try again with without the, if you hear guitar, then just like, oh, okay, I think that now you can go up.
संपादन कमेटियों में जिनसे प्रकाशकों को फायदा होता है, जैसे और फिर और नहीं शर्म के नतीजे हमें बेशुमार दामों पर खरीदने पड़ते हैं, जिससे चीजें हैं खराब लोग धन से होती है और जिनसे प्रकाशकों को फायदा होता है भी जनरल लेखों का मूल्य यूं रखा जाता है जिससे कितने ही समान रोशनी और विश्व
Okay, so this is a reading of this letter
जिससे प्रकाशकों का खराब स्थापित होने
in
पर
Hindu.
पाना कुछ का विशेष
And this is the letter we wrote like some time ago. And in that letter it says basically it brings Little Prince saying that he meets a businessman who accumulates stars with the sole purpose of being able to buy more stars. And then Little Prince tells that businessman it is of some use to my volcanoes because he's cleaning them, and it is of use to my flower which he waters every day, but you have no use to the stars that you own. And then we go here more with examples of how Elsevier is bad and who are the good guys, and the good guys, the Science Hub and Library Genesis, and of course, and Alexandra Elbakyan is just our heroine, and she says if Elsevier manages to shut down our projects or force them into the darknet, they will demonstrate an important idea: the public does not have the right to knowledge. And I'm a big hero, and unfortunately I have only time to read you just this from from Guerrilla Open Access Manifesto by Aaron Swartz. It's a great document. We need to take information wherever it is stored, make our copies and share them with the world. We need to take stuff that's out of copyright and be archived. We need to buy secret databases and put them on the web. We need to download scientific journals and upload them to file sharing networks. We need to fight for guerrilla open access. With enough of us around the world, we'll not just send a strong message opposing the privatization of knowledge. We'll make it a thing of the past. Will you join us? Yeah, I'm done. We have 10 minutes for questions. Yeah, thank you very much.
So thank you very much. Everybody who has a question, please come up to the microphones. They're here in both aisles. Please make sure to speak up loud and clear so everybody on the streams and also later in the recording can understand your questions.
Maxigas, can you send me URL for the discussion later?
So we have a question of the internet. Do I see this right?
Hello. No, this is just an announcement. Hello, I am here. That there will be a discussion about this talk at 8:30 at Hall 14 today. At 8:30 in Hall 14, we will have a discussion about this talk. And so far, there are no questions from the internet.
Okay, thank you very much.
Maybe I can also announce what we would like to discuss.
Sure.
Yeah, so if there are no questions, or just like raise the hand if you have a question.
We have a question over there,
Yeah,
but
okay.
since we're 10 minutes, you can perhaps make a short announcement.
No,
and then-
I'll
Okay.
tell it at the end.
Then we go with the question first.
Yeah, my name's Chris. Great talk, thanks for that. And the quote there at the end was really, really good. Have you looked into alternative methods of distribution of data, including IPFS, which is the Interplanetary File System by Juan Bennett and co.? The nice idea about that one is that it has this wonderful stigmagenic quality, which is that when you download content and you like it, you can pin it. So pinning is a verb, the equivalent of liking on Facebook. The difference being that now that you've pinned it, you become a host for that file. There's no need to have a fixed IP or a droplet on DigitalOcean. You can set up something as small as a Raspberry Pi and start serving out files, including these ebooks that you're talking about, in a way that when you like some content and download it and consume it, you instantly become a host for that file. Had you looked into these kinds of alternatives?
I was in RC channel a few times and trying to convince that I don't want to give my files and the Calibre libraries first to IPFS and then to Fuse. So in a way, yeah, this is the problem at the moment, which I see with the IPFS, which needs to duplicate anything which you want to share. And I have like around 100,000 books, and I don't have at the moment on my laptop enough of a hard disk to make them like duplicated. So I agree, there are great technologies. Also, there are great Calibre. You can run it behind the Tor. We are now trying to rewrite everything with CouchDB, PouchDB, where the syncing we'll get for free, and then with WebTorrent as through WebRTC and things like that. So that's all fine. What I don't want to provide, even when I do my kind of a not really good software, I don't think that we should propose to the world a technical solution, because here we have much bigger thing in stake, and Alexander Elbakyan was very much right about it. We need civil disobedience. We need more people to go and stand out with their names and fight politically. And then we can improve our infrastructures. We can do the federation. We can do the distribution. We can do anonymous. But that's exactly what we would like to discuss at 8:30 in Anarchist Village. Is like, should we really stick? And is it enough to stick with the discourse of the privacy and the individualism and individual rights? Because this is predominant today. And in a way, it doesn't really support sharing. It doesn't support a solidarity as kind of a universal concept. I know a lot of the problems when you bring such a kind of term, but still we need that, and we need to do that as wide as possible. And we cannot do that with people who know how to do blockchains, how to do the elliptic curves encryption and things like that. Unfortunately, but at the same time, it's not unfortunate. It's also that the world doesn't need software engineers to run their utopian fantasies. And that's why I think that IPFS is great. But at the moment when it becomes the solution, when it invites people on another round and turn of the hide and seek game with the authorities, I'm kind of against it. But when I program, I like this idea. I like to play with these ideas. It's kind of like much more fun to do something that complex than metadata cataloging and whatever the decision of the regular expression against something else to unify the metadata from different databases. But these are also important, and we need to have more people doing that. But more than anything else, I think that it's, if you have access, just as Aaron Schwartz said, access to any privilege source, just like make it available. That's what is more important.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, we have another question, please.
Okay. So, in direct response to what you just said, is my question with the entire talk is what it is about, because if it's not really about the coded solution, is it more like a work of art that is to show, to inspire people what would be possible if they could share the databases without actually proposing a solution how to do it this way, because this way seems to duplicate a lot of other efforts. Like, it seems to address a lot of different topics, like how to store, how to redistribute, but also how to catalog, how to synchronize catalogs. I mean, these are all very complex problems that have been tackled before, that are tackled right now. There are solutions, but am I to understand that the point of your particular implementation was not so much as to provide a technical solution, but to show to, less skilled people to what would be possible, to give them an easy outlook and to inspire them to find a political solution? Because the entire talk, I was wondering, these things don't seem to work. The technical solution seems handicapped in so many ways, which is perfectly fine. It's still very interesting, and everybody who has ever struggled with the problem of cataloging their ebooks and stuff like that is highly appreciative of all the effort. But also we know that, I don't want to start yet another metadata database on my own that I can use and two friends of mine can use. And this seems to be, in a way, a similar approach. But if it's about art, if it's about inspiring people, it seems a great thing. And I was wondering which of the two things it tries to be.
I mean, you said like there is one thing which is super bad and another one which is like super great, and I have to decide what I do. Yeah, if I understood you correctly, yes, this is mostly inspiring, but it's not only inspiring. I think that it is important that you do your metadata, that you do your database, that you share your books. So in that sense, and whatever you use, I can agree or disagree, I can propose something else, but what we try to do here is that this is a proposal how we envision the public library. So public library is free access to knowledge for every member of society. It's a library catalog. We need one, and we need a human being. We need a human knowledge here, and that's the librarian. So in a way, what we did with Memory of the World is a canon implementation, a proof of concept, or like this is kind of where what we are trying to achieve. If there is anyone else doing that, great, use it and try to liberate, try to make knowledge not any more privilegedly accessed. So in that sense, I don't think that with this talk or what we do here, that we propose as a solution the technical one. But what we do meanwhile, we also try to join the political struggles. But when there is no one, we do the fucking metadata fixing, you know, like, and we download, and then there are like 25,000 books, and there are like 25,000 more, and there are quite nice catalogs which people did, quite nice catalogs which people curated, and that's the fruit of our work. So in that sense, I wouldn't go that hard and harsh against any technical solution. If you know of any better which kind of follows these, please tell me. IPFS is great, but it's not there yet because it duplicates the big files on my hard disk. If there is some other, yeah, please, there is Open Media Library coming. Hopefully, what I ask Sebastian and Jan is like, okay, make it accessible through the internet, not just for people with Open Media Library and things like that. Thank you very much.